It's the show the establishment warned you about.
And thank you for choosing us to inform you today and entertain. This is the Dr. Tommy Show. I am your free market doctor, Dr. Tommy McRoy, bringing you the latest and greatest of all of the perusings of the internet that may be a benefit to you. We're broadcasting from the great state of Florida, which is where it is raining cats and dogs currently. And it's springtime now, and it's also sprung forward, as you all know. Springtime is when we do the unless you're in Arizona, where you spring clocks forward, and then people have a period of adjustment, maybe a week, maybe they never adjust. Anyway, they're trying to make that permanent, and we'll see if that happens. There's been a disagreement, though, among the medical people who say, well, if you do change the clocks, you should change it to where, if you're not going to change the clocks, you should change it to where it is, instead of daylight savings time all the time, which is now the proposal, to make it to where there is normal time, or quote unquote standard time, which I was reading an article about it, and apparently standard time arose in the early 1900s. It wasn't until there was some type of, I don't know what it was passed anyway, there was some type of a resolution or some laws that came about that standardized time for real, and that's when you had the same time in New York as you would in Florida, or as you would in Georgia, and then the other time zones. Anyway, they passed that, and then so now you have the spring forward and fall back, and then people hate it. Most people hate it, and I don't care really if they don't. I don't know. I guess the purist would say it should be the standard time, which was picked arbitrarily back in 1900s. But anyway, if they pick the standard time or daylight savings time, I don't care, as long as they just stop changing it back and forth. It's just unnecessarily disruptive. Broadcasting from the great state of Florida, where Governor DeSantis is our governor. And he's recently signed a bill. This is kind of interesting. He's signed a few bills this week, or made the news a few times this week, but this one's on, this is a good one. This is from The Blaze. It says, DeSantis signs bill to require high school financial literacy course. Governor DeSantis, a Republican, signed a bill on Tuesday that will require high schoolers to take a financial literacy and money management course in order to obtain a standard high school diploma. The Florida legislature has passed a bill that includes a provision that would prohibit teaching. Okay, that's something different. The requirement will be applicable to students who start ninth grade during the 23-24 school year, and will cover such issues as credit scores, calculating federal income tax, checkbook balancing, and more. That's great. We also made news, not like Dr. Jill Biden. He's just merely a governor. Governor DeSantis, it says here, this is the other part of the article. The Florida legislature passed a bill that includes a provision that would prohibit teaching kids in kindergarten through third grade about sexual orientation. DeSantis, who plans to sign the legislation, said Tuesday, quote, "If you're out protesting this bill, you are by definition putting yourself in favor of injecting sexual instruction to 5, 6, and 7-year-old kids." So this is written by The Blaze. How do I know that? Because I read it earlier, and it was on The Blaze. The other reason I know that is because they said this is a bill that prohibits teaching kids in kindergarten through third grade about sexual orientation and gender identity. Well, if you were to read CNN or New York Times or the Washington Post or the Atlanta Journal Constitution or any of these other known outlets of the drive-by media, it would have said, Florida's legislature has passed a bill that includes a provision that would prohibit teaching kids about gay orientations, because that's the don't say gay bill, and that's what they said it was. And for most of you out there, you know that it doesn't say gay at all in the whole bill. It just says no sex bill, basically is what it is. It's the no sex bill. But they have to pick something that's kind of a lightning rod in order to disinform you, because they're the disinformation specialists. They're drive-by media. They have to pick something that's going to be contra. Whatever happens, which is not what they said. They just said, don't teach my kindergartner through third grade, and that's pretty reasonable, about penises and vaginas and every damn thing else. Hold on to your seats, guys. This is from The Blaze as well. If you have been putting away your N95 mask or your surgical mask or your cloth mask, or you've been making plans to travel, or you have otherwise kind of, begun to ease back into normal life, watch out. This is from the Blaze. Fauci says another COVID-19 surge in the U.S. is unlikely. Well, if you've been following this for 2 years, that headline is reason for great concern. Because if Fauci says there's not going to be another COVID-19 surge, you better be prepared for a COVID-19 surge. Because what Dr. Fauci says is typically always wrong. And how do you know this? Because when he says it, teasing him, and some other people were teasing him about, where's Dr. Fauci? Dr. Fauci disappeared. And it was thought that he was removed from the scene by the powers that be because of his, he's associated with lockdowns. He's associated with, plexiglass and masking and making the kids stay on the plane with a mask on and kicking the family off if there's no mask, or the kid can't wear a mask. Anyway, they took him out of circulation and said, look, this guy's bad. But now they brought him back. I guess he was shamed into coming back. So he's back in during a Washington Post live event. And he says, I would not be surprised at all if we do see somewhat of an uptick. The extent of it and to the degree that it impacts seriousness of diseases like hospitalization and deaths remains to be seen. A major surge coming. And then Dr. Fauci says, we can't claim absolute victory at this point. There's still viral dynamics. We still have a high transmissibility virus among us, particularly the BA2, which has a greater degree of transmissibility than the already highly transmissible BA1, which was the original Omicron. So the advice is to proceed with life as normally as you possibly can, but prepared that we may need to make modifications if things change. Aha, there we go. The other shoe. And so I went into Publix yesterday, and I was pleased to see that. I was like, oh, there's something different here. No plexiglass. There was no plexiglass. The thing that has basically saved us thus far, the only thing that's really saved us so far from not being wiped off the face of the earth like the dinosaurs is plexiglass, cloth mask, cotton mask, surgical mask, and the occasional N95 mask, and social distancing. If it hadn't been for that, we wouldn't be talking right now. This is funny too. This is from Breitbart. This is Rand Paul. Rand Paul's, he just really, he speaks for so many of us out there who are not of the type to just follow along with whatever the media says and whatever the establishment says. It says Rand Paul, quote, menace Anthony Fauci, quote, hasn't been right really about anything since the start of the pandemic. It says on Fox News Channel's America Reports, Rand Paul railed against Chief White House Medical Advisor Dr. Anthony Fauci for warning about a return of restrictions due to a new strain of COVID-19. He says, quote, if you believe Dr. Fauci, then you should immediately go and get stickers and make sure they're on the floor everywhere you go, and a yardstick so that you know you're 6 feet away from people, and plexiglass. Carry plexiglass around with you because Dr. Fauci thinks that plexiglass somehow, reflects the virus away from you. None of that has worked. Not one thing he's advocated other than the vaccine, and I'm not against the vaccine, but the interesting thing is he won't admit this to the public. If you take a sample of blood from 1,000 people anywhere in the United States and measure it to see if they have antibodies to the virus or antibodies to the vaccine, it's over 95%. That's why we're doing better with this. We've developed immunity either from having disease or from being vaccinated. And that's why we're doing better. In addition to the fact that the virus has mutated to a less virulent or less deadly form. But he won't admit it because he's caught up in putting stickers on floors, putting masks on your face, putting goggles on you. This guy's a menace, and he hasn't really been right about anything since the start of this. So this was from, this was March 23rd. And so when did Fauci talk? Fauci was speaking, it looks like it was reported the same day. I'm not sure when he spoke to this group, but that he knows that, they've told him, they said, look, Fauci, we're going to let you back out there. Here's your talking points. Don't say anything about plexiglass. Don't say anything about mask. I want you to go out there and say, look, we're getting over this. You can even claim Biden did it. Just, don't scare these people anymore because they're going to murder us at the ballot box in 2022. But he couldn't help it because when he finished off, he said, My advice is to proceed with life as normally as possibly can, but be prepared for what we might need to do to make modifications if things change. So he couldn't let it go. He's like, he just saw the plexiglass in his garage that he's been selling. He's like, I got to get rid of this stuff. Back to COVID news. This is interesting. Epic Times. Leaders of 10 major U.S. airlines call on Biden to drop mask mandates, pre-departure testing requirements. The advocacy group Airlines for America issued Joe Biden a letter demanding the end of mask mandates for transportation and other COVID-19 requirements, such as pre-departure testing for international flights. The letter from the group's board of directors was signed by the leaders of 10 major U.S. airlines, including American Airlines, United, Delta, and Southwest. We are encouraged by the current data and the lifting of COVID-19 restrictions from coast to coast, which indicate it is past time to eliminate the COVID-era transportation policies, the group wrote in the letter, which comes as overall numbers of infections decline in the nation, according to the data from the Center for Disease Control. It's kind of interesting that everybody's jumping on board with this decline, because if you look at them, you can, one of the best charts to look at in my mind, easiest to find too, is if you just go to the internet and search Y charts, YCHARTS, and then whatever state or country you're interested in, and either say COVID deaths or COVID cases, and that brings up a chart pretty quick. And if you look at a chart like that, what we're seeing now is just a normal ebb and flow of what we've seen with COVID since it started in 2020. So now everybody's jumping on board and saying, look, the cases are down. We can pull back our guard, and we can start doing all these things. We can live life normally. But it's no different than it has been before. So I don't know why suddenly. Well, I do know why. I don't know why they say that suddenly we can do that when before we couldn't do that. And the reason they say that now is because everyone collectively wants to forget COVID for the elections. They don't want that. They don't want that hanging around in the air. And originally, the companies went along with the government because the government said, "Look, we're going to have all these COVID restrictions, COVID this, COVID that." And the corporations aren't stupid. They know who butters their bread. They want to please the government because they know they can either get, certain things from the government, or if they act a certain way, that government will punish them a certain way. So they want to be in bed with the government. The government, big business, they're in cahoots. And so that's why they were like, let's we'll play along. Yeah, everybody's got to wear a mask. You can mask up between bites. That'll prevent COVID transmission, and everyone will be happy. But now the politicians are saying we need to move on past COVID. And when they're saying that, now that gives the corporations an allowance, so to speak, to say, look, we want to move past this too, and we want to get rid of this stuff because these passengers are pissed off. This is funny. This came to me from, I have a Cleveland Clinic continuing medical education email that gets sent to me, and this is from the AP. This is one of the links that they had. It says, doctors facing hurdles and using pills to treat COVID-19. It says, health systems across the country are rushing out same-day prescription deliveries. Some clinics have started testing and treating patients in one visit, an initiative that President Joe Biden's administration recently touted. The goal is to get patients started on either Pfizer's Paxlovid tablets or Merck's Molnupiravir capsules within 5 days of developing symptoms. That can prevent people with big health risks from growing sicker and filling up hospitals if a surge develops. Then it goes on to say there's this guy that got sick, and he says, the article says, some people don't consider themselves high risk and don't think they will be sick enough to need pills, which are free to patients. Note that. Remember that. They're also worried about side effects or how the drugs would interact with other medications. Very smart, right? Very smart of these patients to be worried about side effects, how it's going to interfere with other medications, and also, do I really need this? But wait. It says Jeff Carlson couldn't try Paxlovid when COVID-19 hit him in January because it might interfere with his heart medications. The 61-year-old suburban St. Paul, Minnesota resident has type 1 diabetes and heart disease. A doctor asked him to try Molnupiravir after about 3 days after he started feeling symptoms. By then, Carlson couldn't get off his couch. His fever had soared and he was struggling to breathe. His wife picked up the prescription, and a few days later, Carlson felt well enough to shovel snow. Turned me around basically in a matter of pretty much 18 hours after I took the first dose, he said. Some healthcare providers have started, here it is, free delivery services for Paxlovid or molnupiravir, blah, blah, blah. So there he is, and this is funny too. New York City has established a hotline patients can call if they test positive. This is funny because as soon as I read this, I was like, two things. One, these drugs that they're touting now and they're pushing out and they want everyone to get on it, they're very expensive. They're brand new drugs, are very expensive. And then some of the same things that they're saying that happen with these patients were said about the dreaded hydroxychloroquine. But later they were able to make studies that say hydroxychloroquine is not effective. And the reason we know this is because we gave it to COVID patients in 3 times the normal dose and they got sick. And so we know it's not effective. But it's just funny because if you say, well, this is a free program, right? Free means Santa Claus, right? Wrong. Here's how much this COVID cost, this COVID drug cost. This is from GoodRx. How much does it cost? Paxlovid per dose, $530. Oh, okay. And then per dose, molnupiravir. 18 pills are in short supply while other areas may have plenty in stock. More courses have been delivered to states so far, blah, blah, blah. Somewhere in here it talks about how the government's doing it. And it's this test to treat program. This test to treat program is authorizing payments to these companies so that people can get these pills. And if you read that article, it's like an advertisement for it, but it's actually not an advertisement. That's supposedly just a straight up news media article. And so you have to read all these things with a little bit of a jaundiced eye. And like I said, this costs $530. I think it's per dose here. I'm not sure. Yeah, per dose, $530, and then $700 for this other one. And the government's paying for it, so it's not free. Actually, it's not free, but they're pushing it now. It's pushing it hard. I don't know if you saw this. This is this new Supreme Court Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson. She's the replacement for Ruth Bader Ginsburg. No, not the replacement for Ruth Bader. That was another 3-name person, Amy Coney Bryant. No, Ketanji Brown Jackson's going to replace the retiring Justice. I forgot his name now. Anyway, one of the 3 quote unquote liberals on the court, not including our swinging Chief Justice. But she's going to replace him, Breyer. Yeah. And so anyway, it says this is Tom Cotton, though. Tom Cotton's really been on the case. And Tom Cotton better watch himself, because the more he pushes this, the less likely he's going to be able to assume any type of national notoriety, because he will be soon called a racist. Because Tom Cotton has said to Ketanji Brown Jackson, who is black, "I don't find your testimony, quote, credible. I think child pornographers reoffended because you gave them a light sentence." And it says, Senator, this is from Breitbart, Senator Tom Cotton told the President Joe Biden's Supreme Court nominee Ketanji Brown Jackson that he did not find her testimony credible after the judge claimed she did not remember a child pornographer to whom she gave a light sentence. The sentencing guidelines for this offense called for a sentence of 97 to 121 days, or 8 to 10 years. The prosecutors asked for 24 months. You sentenced him to 3 months. We've heard a lot about this case and their back and forth over the 3-month sentence of Wesley Hawkins, the senator continued. But you got another crack at him in 2019, Judge. In 2019, you sent Wesley Hawkins back under conditions of confinement with the bureaus of prisons for 6 months with additional restrictions on his computer usage. And he goes, he says, well, what, he asked her, what happened here? What did the guy do in 2019? That's twice the amount of time in custody that you sentenced him in 2013. What did Wesley Hawkins do in 2019, Judge? Cotton asked. To which Jackson replied, "Oh, I don't remember, Senator. I've had a lot of defendants who I've sentenced." And then he goes on to say, what I think happened is he goes, you know what I think? I think he got caught with child pornography again, and I think that if he had been in prison for 8 to 10 years that the guidelines called for in 2013, when you first sentenced him, he wouldn't have reoffended. Which is which is probably a true. But like I said, despite his credible criticism of Ketanji Brown Jackson, I think he runs the risk of being painted as racist because Tom Cotton is white and Ketanji Brown Jackson is black, and this just doesn't fly when you're going from one side to the other. Conservative criticizing liberal or progressive is not allowed. Now, back to judges who are black, and this is Janice Rogers, who was the nominee under President George W. Bush back in the old days. Janice Rogers Brown, I believe her name was. Anyway, she was a nominee for the Supreme Court, and then Senator Joseph R. Biden was one to proudly filibuster her when she was nominated for Supreme Court. And he actually also, you know who else he raked over the coals? You know who else he did? Clarence Thomas, who happens to be black. And so if you look at this case, and I hate that we have to talk about skin color, because I view it as irrelevant. You know, Tracy makes a joke sometimes that she forgets that I'm Filipino until she sees me in a picture. And that's a good thing, because I don't think of her as white. I don't think of my dad as white when I was a kid, and my mother was Filipino. You know, you see people in terms of color, it's degrading. It's really insulting, actually, because you reduce them to something that's physical. And that's kind of what the Dr. Martin Luther King used to talk about, is the content of character, not the color of skin. And yet we are fixated on color. And we're fixated on color and genitalia, and what do you want to do with your genitalia? Where do you want to put your genitalia? And all these just things that are not relevant to what people's character is. But Ketanji Brown Jackson is going to get admitted to the Supreme Court. She's going to get confirmed. The people who will confirm her will be every Democrat, and then there's also going to be Republicans, and there's going to be a lot of Republicans. I've heard Clay and Buck say that they think there'll be like one, maybe Mitt Romney. They think there's going to be a lot. My prediction is there'll be probably short of 10, but close to 10 Republicans who vote for her. And the reason they'll vote for her is because they don't want to be seen as opposing the first black female Supreme Court judge. But again, that's only because she is a progressive. No one had a problem in the media, that is, with Janice Rogers Brown, I believe that was her name, being opposed by Senator Joseph R. Biden back then. And no one in the media, actually they championed it, had a problem when Clarence Thomas was being accused of sexual whatever you want to call it, harassment. They call it harassment. That's when the first word harassment first came out. It should not be a dominant thing to associate with someone as a person. You know, it's degrading. We have patients that are all colors in this practice, all skin colors, let's put it. And if you were to read, they put out stuff for doctors, and you see it too yourself. But they say, look, you know, certain patients want to be treated a certain way, and one of the ways you can tell how they need to be treated is based on their skin color. Now, these are from the medical establishment. The medical establishment says that there's not enough black and brown doctors because a black or brown patient feels more comfortable with a black or brown doctor. That's what the medical establishment says. And so therefore we need to have more brown or black doctors. What we need to have is more doctors who want to be involved in patient care and not subservient to insurance companies. That's what we need. It doesn't matter if they're black or brown. It doesn't matter if they're white. It doesn't matter what color they are. They just need to be dedicated to patients rather than dedicated insurance companies. But that's not what we hear. We hear more black or brown. So you think about it is, to me, they're saying now you're supposed to go into a room, look at a patient, see their skin color, and say, all right, what color is this person? And based on that, I'm supposed to treat them differently. I guess what I'm supposed to do, and this is, I guess what I'm supposed to do, is I'm supposed to go in there, and if it's a black or brown patient, then I guess since I'm kind of brown, then I feel like they're comfortable with me. But for my white patients, I'm supposed to, maybe I'm supposed to give them less care because they have white privilege. I don't know. I don't know what the rules are for that. But if I was white, for instance, let's say that my mother is Filipino and my father is Caucasian, right? Scot-Irish descent, mostly European, English. Let's say that I favored him more than my mom. Then when I walked in there, because of my skin color, I would be able to treat white patients a certain way because they would be comfortable with me because they're white and I look white too. But because I favored more my mother as far as complexion's concerned, now when I walk in, I'm supposed to somehow identify the skin color of the person, and then make decisions about their care and about how I interact with them based on that, which is absolute lunacy. And it's a sick thing that we need to get rid of in this country, is this fixation on race and skin color and sexual orientation and genitalia and everything else, and it's used to divide us all. Well, on that happy note, I will leave you. And if you want to join us for more Dr. Tommy Show, go to drtommy.com/podcast. And if you also want to join us on Rumble, you can do that, because I think YouTube may not like what I have to say. You can see that because every show I say, they have a little COVID-19 warning about it, how this is potential disinformation. And you can also join us on all of your favorite MP3 downloads or streaming services such as Spotify. I like to use iHeartRadio because I use it for listening to the Clay and Buck Show. So I think that would be a good one for you to try. Anyway, we invite you to, if you're living in Tampa and you want to have a consult with us, to come in and find out about what we do here. We do a sports and family medicine practice, which is concierge medicine, which means that you pay us. You don't pay insurance companies, and then we'll give you direct access to us, and we'll give you our 100% commitment. And we're committed to your health and helping you get as good as you can be. And that's our only concern, is our concierge medicine practice, going now on 10 years here in Tampa. So we invite you to go to drtommy.com, and like I said, go to podcast, or if you want to learn more about our medical side. And plus, we're going to be getting IVs soon, because we moved the studio room to this room, and now my old office, which was the studio room, is going to be for IV therapy. So if you're interested in that, coming soon. But anyway, enjoy your weekend and have a good, safe weekend, and we'll see you next time.